Well, there was a big meeting yesterday at the White House. Here to talk about it, Roger Marshall, Kansas U.S. Senator on KCMO Talk Radio after, well, the shutdown starts week 4 today. So, Senator, what was the big takeaway yesterday from your visit to the White House?
Yeah, Pete. Well, good morning. I think it's number one. Just envision Andy Reid telling their team when they're at a losing record to start the year to stay together. So Coach Trump was saying, look, we need to stay together on this one. That we need to work towards a balanced budget, and the Democrats are asking to add $1.5 trillion to our debt right now, and not to do it. So it was stick together. We're focused. We've had a lot of successes. The most successful first 9 months of any presidency. So we've got a lot to be proud of, but let's stick together here. And the Democrats need to come to their senses, come across the aisle and open the government. And then if you want to talk about fixing health care, we're very glad to do that.
Okay, so this thing is not, folks on the other side of the aisle, what are you hearing as to how and when this ends? What is their off-ramp?
Yeah, well, Pete, I'm getting ready. I'll have our bipartisan prayer breakfast, which I lead. There'll be 15 or 20 of us in that here in a second. And, there's just not much chatter back and forth about it. And we just seem to be stuck. As you know, I think President Trump was one of the greater negotiators in the world. He's waiting for the right timing. And you heard earlier, I'm sure, that Chuck Schumer's almost begging to meet with him. So I think that Trump has him almost where he wants him, but not quite. We haven't, this is kind of turned on itself, turned back on the Democrats, and I think Senator Schumer realizes this isn't playing out well for them. When they voted against funding the military last week, I think you could really see the tide turn against the Democrats. It's not playing well back home. So we'll see where the president is. I think that, I would just add he's very focused on things overseas right now, really working hard to make this peace agreement in Hamas stick, and then trying to figure out some type of path to end all the killing in Ukraine and get those 20,000 kidnapped children back home as well.
Yeah, it seems like he's called off a potential second visit with Putin this week. Did that come up yesterday in the meeting? And if so, what did he say?
I'm trying to think. We talked for an hour. I don't recall him specifically mentioning Russia, but just as you hear all of his press conferences, I certainly do see that he's pretty locked in on things on an international basis across the world and understands that we're stuck right now. So I think he's sitting there waiting. We'll see if he wants to meet with Schumer before the end of the week. But like he said, why would you negotiate when they have a hostage? Just imagine this, Pete. Look at it like the Democrats have taken the federal government hostage. Their ransom is $1.5 trillion. Do you pay the kidnappers the $1.5 trillion? And that just reinforces them to do it more and more. So I think we're stuck right now. I want to fix health care, but not until after they open the government.
Kansas U.S. Senator Roger Marshall is joining us on KCMO. So we're starting to see some of these videos that Democrats are putting out of their constituents saying, hey, look at my Obamacare costs. They were a few $100. Now they're a couple thousand. And I do wonder if that's going to be part of their political play here in the days and weeks to come. How are the Republicans going to combat that when Democrats are going to put up their constituents and say, look at what my health care costs went to?
Well, I think the first thing is Democrats need to own this. The ACA, this is the ACA policies, the Obamacare policies. And there's one thing we learned about Obamacare or the ACA is it's not so affordable. I've said all along, and I didn't wake up thinking about this yesterday. I've been thinking about this for 8 years, and even longer. You go back to my private practice. There's 3 things the Democrats need to be willing to address after they open the government. Number one is the fraud. There's $25 billion of fraud right now in the people on the ACA program. 24 million people on it. It's costing the federal government $150 billion a year. There's at least $25 billion of fraud. Next is the deductible. The average deductible on these plans is $5,000 a year. If you're a family making $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 a year and you have a $5,000 deductible, that's not access to health care. And then finally is the cost of this. They have to be willing to address the problems with their plan, with this ACA plan. Again, they own it. This is their problem. This is their plan. This is exactly what we said the ACA would do. It would drive up the cost of health care. Indeed it is. So they have to be willing to address all 3 of those before I'm even willing to sit down and try to work out the mechanics of it. This is something President Trump has texted me about, wanting, what my input on it, and we'll be ready to roll after they open the government back up. They shouldn't have waited until 2 weeks before the government shutdown, before the deadline for the government funding, to say, oh, this is the hostage we're taking. I cannot fix this in 2 weeks of negotiations, Pete. I know what to do. I know what the goals are, but it's going to take a little bit of time for me to work through this with Democrats, because they don't understand business. They never signed the front side of a paycheck. They've never had to purchase health care. They have no idea what the real world is really like.
Roger Marshall, so take off the U.S. Senator's cap for a second, put on the old doctor scrubs. What is the big issue, and how does it get fixed if you had your magic wand?
Yeah, I think to address the fraud is number one. We have to have some type of identification. Imagine, just like going to vote, or you're signing up for Medicare. You don't have to prove who you are. So there's people out there. Of those 24 million people, 38% of them are not using their health care plan. So these are ghost people. They don't even know they're on it. So there's dishonest insurance agents out there signing up people that don't even know they're being signed up for it. All you need is your name and a phone number. They're signing you up, and the federal government is paying 100% of the premium for a lot of these people. So you have to have identity verification. Next, people have to pay something into it. You can't make it totally free. I don't care if it's $10 a week, $10 a month, but people have to have a monthly payment to verify that they're in it. So that'll take care of the fraud. Next, what we want is transparency. So price tags bill. We're going to get that through Congress this year, that makes hospitals, imaging centers, doctors post their prices before you go have your procedure done. And the next and last thing is turn people into consumers again. We want a special HSA, healthcare savings account, that you could use for these. And maybe it's even partially funded by the federal government. I could go on and on. There's something called silver loading, Pete. I'll come back and talk to you about someday what the insurance companies have done that's really just corporate welfare.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, no, I know there's a lot there. It does get into the weeds, and it's obviously a big part of the conversation going on right now. Speaking of conversations going on right now, Senator, what's going on, and what have you said, if anything, to the president after he threw out the idea of importing beef from Argentina to try to lower prices for Americans at the counter? We've talked about this with some of the ranchers here in Kansas and Missouri this morning. We know that, they're doing well for the first time in a while. They're making a lot of money off that cattle, most of them, not all of them, but most of them are. But it's hurting people at the counter. The president's trying to balance, obviously, what's good for the cattle rancher with what's good for the consumer. What is the answer here?
Well, Pete, you're right. There'll be a big announcement out of USDA today, kind of addressing some of these particular issues. I met yesterday with Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins, and was immediately talking to the White House, about about the president's comments there. So I would say this: number one, the president ran on really three things: secure the border, lower the price of gases, and lower the price of groceries. Look, he secured the border. Gas prices back home this weekend, I saw some places at $2.50 a gallon. But groceries are a little sticky. They're still up 2.7%. Now, that's a far better, increase. A far better situation than under Joe Biden's 22% cumulative increase in groceries. But the president is still concerned about the price of groceries, and beef is kind of leading the situation there. Now, your listeners need to know that I worked in this industry growing up. I lost a lot of money in this industry the last 20 years. I know the industry forward, backwards, and sideways. This Argentina beef is just a blip on the screen.
Yeah,
we could increase the Argentina beef imports times 8, and it would not replace the amount of beef we're losing from Mexico because of the screwworm. And then the other thing people need to and this is complicated, but in America, we grow fat beef. It's steaks. It's, when the American farmer makes money is when we turn corn into that great KC strip steak that you get down at one of those fine restaurants, or maybe you go to the grocery store and get it as well. We don't have enough hamburgers, where I'm going with this. We don't have enough lean beef in this country to satisfy the needs for hamburger, whether that's for tacos or spaghetti or whatever you use hamburger for. We have to import some hamburger because our beef is so much more valuable. It's much more profitable to turn our corn into steaks and ship it to Japan and South Korea. So we have to import some hamburger from somewhere. The real problem with the cost of beef is the supply, Pete, is the supply of cattle. This is the smallest cattle herd we've had in my lifetime. Why did the cattle herd get so small? Well, really, 7 of the last 10 years we've had drought. So you're that rancher, you're deciding whether to keep your female calves or not, or sell them. Those are called heifers. If you don't have any grass for them, you've got to sell them. Well, guess what? We've had some rain. The Flint Hills just look incredible. Cattle from all over the country come here to graze, to the Flint Hills where I was born and raised. So it's looking, the supply is going to come back, but unlike chickens, it'll take 3 years to grow this herd back. But you have to have water in the ponds, and you have to have hay to feed them. So that's coming back. We got the screwworm issue in Mexico, and happy to come back and talk about that someday. But we don't want to be importing cattle, live cattle from Mexico right now because of this screwworm. It could run our entire industry.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of balls up in the air here.
Okay.
And I've got my eye on all of them.
When we appreciate you doing that, Senator, we are grateful as always for the time, and thanks so much for covering all the topics this morning on KCMO.
All right, Pete. Good to be with you.
You as well. That is Roger Marshall.